So I definitely know how not to sing. In fact, I had 2 vocal injuries caused by cumulative misuse and abuse of my singing voice up to my late 20s. So I needed voice surgery, not once, but twice. So I knew I had to do something different, and I searched all over for a way to strengthen my voice and prevent me from damaging it again. And then, while working as a musician and producer in LA in the early 90s, I found the answer. I learned one key technique that changed how I sang, gave me more control, and made me sound much better and stronger. And I've been singing that correct way now for over 25 years. No more issues, no need for surgery. So today, I'm going to tell you how to access the secrets to true vocal power. The same secrets from the same teacher that Axl Rose uses to sound like this.
You in the jungle! Wake up! Time to die!
Whoa. Okay, let's do this. So it's easy to get into bad singing habits. I mean, my singing career is kind of a textbook case of how it can happen. First time I ever got paid to sing, I was in 6th grade. 2 older kids, some very cool 8th graders, discovered me and asked me to join their rock band and play guitar and sing lead. And the next thing you know, we got hired for a junior high mixer, $45. So I had a blast playing and singing. I earned $15, which was a small fortune to me back then. And I was definitely hooked. So now looking back, I actually realized that very same mixer was the day I also became a professional singer. So that whole time that I was learning the guitar, the bass, keyboards, I was also learning to sing. I sang lead in a string of jazz and rock bands. We did weddings, dances, bar mitzvahs, holiday parties, I mean, you name it. As a student, I sang in choirs, both at my local schools and in competitions at the state level. I was part of a cappella, madrigal, and barbershop groups. And then eventually I started gigging as a solo guitar and vocal act. I maxed out in college singing 5 hours a night, 5 nights a week in a smoky Michigan restaurant called Holly's by Golly. And I've been singing ever since. So in other words, I've sung a lot. I can't even imagine like how many thousands of hours I've spent singing. And I love to sing lead, I love duets. I especially love singing and layering vocal harmonies. So I plan to explore all those topics during this voice discovery series because I really want to help you become a great singer in any solo or group context. And here's the thing, it makes you much more valuable as a guitarist if you can also sing. All those years I was singing so much, but no one ever really taught me to sing correctly. I had choir directors that gave me solid advice. Always warm up before singing, keep the throat relaxed, support your voice from the diaphragm, I mean, those kinds of things, you know. But I was a little schizophrenic as a singer because I'd use my proper technique in formal groups like choir or madrigals, and then I'd throw away the rules singing rock because I wanted to put extra edge in my voice, you know, and I'd deliberately stretch my neck or maybe strain for notes, which sounded cool, but definitely abused my voice. I was almost always hoarse by the end of any gig. So lots of professional singers do similar damage. Sometimes you can actually hear it on their recordings. You know, like think of John Lennon audibly ripping his voice to shreds on Twist and Shout. That was early in his career, and then after he left the Beatles, we heard him primal screaming on the song Mother. Adele had a vocal cord polyp that hemorrhaged, so did Meghan Trainor, and a bunch of singers have had vocal surgery for vocal cord trauma. People like Sam Smith, Elton John, Bjork, Keith Urban, Justin Timberlake, Michael Buble, John Mayer, Steve Tyler. Surprisingly common issue. My bad singing habits caught up with me in my late 20s, and one day my voice just went hoarse and wouldn't come back. Went on for weeks. So eventually I had to have it checked by a throat specialist, and he told me I had lesions on my vocal cords. Turns out they are just callus-like growths in the vocal folds. They're also known as singer's nodules or nodes because they're the result of repetitive overuse or misuse of the voice. I actually have a recording of what I sounded like the night before my first vocal surgery. Check this out. La 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 la. How do you like that? How do you like that? So I went under the knife, and as a person whose identity and some of my income was also wrapped up in singing, it was definitely scary because the doctor told me there was a chance my vocal cords could become paralyzed. Apparently that happened randomly in some rare cases. Anyway, thank God I wasn't a statistic. The surgery went really well. My voice came back, and it was quite a bit stronger than it had been. But then I kept singing and using my voice the same way. So a couple of years later, I was back for another surgery. So at that point, I knew I was abusing my voice. I needed to do something differently. But what? After healing from the second surgery, my wife Barra Waters and I moved to Hollywood. So this was 1991, and I was producing a harmony-based rock trio. Vocals were the core of their sound. Their name was Baba Cool. And they were working with a vocal coach named Roger Burnley. He came to some of the sessions to help them really nail their performances. And Roger was really strong on the psychology of singing. And I remember him teaching ideas like visualizing a melody and seeing yourself come down to a high note instead of reaching up to it. So that was almost 30 years ago, and the cool thing is Roger is still teaching, and he still really knows how to help singers hit their full potential. So I'll put a link to his YouTube channel in the description. Check him out. Now at that time for me, I specifically wanted a coach to strengthen my voice, right? 2 surgeries, I wanted to strengthen it. One day, I saw a little classified ad in Music Connection magazine. There was this woman named Elizabeth Sabine, and she said she knew the secrets to singing powerfully without damaging your voice. She'd taught Axl Rose of Guns N' Roses and some other well-known heavy metal dudes. Now, I definitely was not singing heavy metal, but I did want to know the heavy metal secrets. So I called Elizabeth to book a lesson. And this very polite woman answered the phone. She had a really charming Australian accent, and it turned out that was Elizabeth. She regretted to inform me that her student roster was full. I did have the sense to ask if she had a wait list, and she said instead of waiting, I could buy her new lesson on tape. So I thought, sure. She gave me her address in Van Nuys. I drove over the hill from Hollywood just to buy her cassette. I remember meeting her and thinking how funny it was that this petite, almost 70-year-old lady was teaching all these macho dudes to scream. You know, Megadeth frontman Dave Mustaine was a Sabine protege. Apparently he called her the heavy metal grandma. I love it. So I meet her. She hands me a tape called The Sabine Rock Voice. And then I ask the price, and she says $45. And I remember thinking, this has got to be the most expensive cassette ever recorded. Turned out, though, that it was actually a bargain because it was worth way more than $45 to me because it had exactly the revelations and the techniques I needed to correct my bad vocal habits. You know, what I needed to strengthen my voice and just be able to deliver tunes and avoid surgery. I found out that Elizabeth based her vocal strengthening techniques on ones she had learned from her vocal mentor. He was an Italian opera singer named Robert Mazzarella, not Mozzarella, but Mazzarella. And she translated his opera strengthening techniques over into rock techniques.
Well, this is what the kids want to do. It exists, it's happening. Don't knock it, see if we can help them to sing better. No! The boys and girls talk about me as the person who would really understand and won't make them wrong for wanting to sing heavy metal.
So sadly, Elizabeth passed away in 2015. She was in her 90s, but her lessons live on, and you can get them in a couple of formats. She wrote a book called Strengthening Your Singing Voice. That's still available on Amazon. Link in the description as always. Unfortunately, that's not true of the Sabine Rock voice lesson. That's been out of print for years. But I was digging around recently and I rediscovered my prized 30-year-old cassette, and I digitized it so I can now share it with you for free. Just go to guitardiscoveries.com/rockvoice. All one word, rock voice. You're going to find an invitation to join the Guitar Discoverers Club. When you do, you'll immediately get a link to the full Sabine Rock voice lesson, complete with vintage cassette cover graphics. Woohoo! You are going to love what Elizabeth teaches and how she teaches it. I guarantee she is going to change both your singing ability and your vocal endurance in one lesson. And then it's going to be up to you to use her techniques every time you sing. So get it while you can, then come back and tell me in the comments how Elizabeth's lesson helps you. I know it's going to make a difference. Okay, real quick before you go, please like the video, subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified about new videos. Next week, we're going to discover how to record your vocals and give your best performance. Till then, keep playing, singing, and discovering.